My guest today is Brian Fanzo. Brian is a digital futurist. He's a Web3 guy, and he is currently advising, helping out the PepeCoin community, which is what I suppose we're going to talk about today. Welcome to the show, Brian.
Excited to be here. Thanks for having me. And yeah, excited to talk all things PepeCoin and everything they have going on and anything else in this beautiful space.
Sounds good to me, Brian. Excited to have you here. Before we get into, the wonderful world of PepeCoin, be cool if you could just introduce yourself. Love to hear a little bit about your personal and professional backstory. I suppose, what is it that you do? You're a digital futurist. What have you been doing in the lead up to, helping out the team at PepeCoin?
Sure. Yeah. So my background, worked a decade in cybersecurity for the Department of Defense, mostly traveling around the world deploying cybersecurity solutions. And then I've spent the last decade plus, as a public speaker. So I've traveled to 76 countries, around the world, mostly around emerging technology and how do we embrace change? Like how do we, understand where a lot of this market, where everything's going. And I dove into Web3 in the late 2020, really focused on like, what is the utility of the blockchain? I would say of all things, I'm probably a blockchain maxi more so than I am anything else in the space. I've hosted, 9 podcasts over the years on a wide range of topics, create a lot of content and really speak on like where is from a tech perspective, where is the tech going? How does the tech impact us? And, for me, playing in a lot of projects focused mostly on what projects are building utility connected with community that has a technology component. And love to talk, mostly, that kind of the world, right? Like, a lot less on the financial side, a lot less on the speculation side, more on kind of that community and utility side of Web3 these days.
Yeah, fantastic. That's quite an interesting career path, though, I must say, Brian, to go from 10 years working for, what did you say, Department of Security?
Department of Defense here, in the Pentagon here in Washington, D.C.
Yeah, so what I know you can there's probably limited stuff that you can talk about there, but that's, as I say, to go from that to kind of advising essentially a memecoin token and Web3, that's kind of quirky.
Yeah, it's a journey. I think, interestingly enough, for me, it's always been about translating the tech, right? It was about translating cybersecurity before cybersecurity was anything that people talked about. I talked about live video, like what we're doing now, connecting the world. I started doing that in 2012, helping brands get into that space. So, if I look back over the 2 decades that I've been, since university, most of it's come down to where can I help translate technology and kind of take it to the next part. And honestly, it's why I ignored PepeCoin at first, because I really wasn't attracted or looking for a meme coin to spend time with. I wanted something that was kind of broader than that. And thankfully, I came back, took a second look and saw what else they were building. And so that's kind of how I ended up, talking meme coins. Definitely not your normal path.
Yeah. All right. Well, look, maybe we'll come back towards the end of the show and just, get your thoughts on perhaps, the kind of the digital trends that are maybe coming next, because there's a lot. But look, let's jump into meme coins. So it's kind of crazy, like, the meme coin season, I guess earlier this year, there was a lot of hype around meme coins, and to a lot of people's surprise, maybe it was meme coins that outperformed almost everything else. But PepeCoin, let's start there. Am I right in thinking, Brian, that PepeCoin was actually, maybe after Doge, Pepe was one of the originals though, wasn't it?
Correct. Yeah, right after Doge. So 2016, this team launched a layer 1 and a meme coin, and it was PepeCoin. And then because of the Pepe meme itself, the Matt Fury Pepe meme, it got hijacked there for a little while by U.S. politicians and used as kind of misused or misunderstood. They actually turned the coin, the Pepe coin turned into MEMETIC with the ticker meme, ME, for a good while. And then as that kind of the tide turned, they were able to kind of transfer back into, in May of last year, back into PepeCoin. And so the team's been building and launching layer 1 technology and really, running this meme coin community. There's a lot of the members of the community that I've met have been in the project since 2016, 2017. And I mean, truthfully, I didn't even know meme coins were a thing other than, we knew what Doge was, but that was really the only thing that I knew of. So it's kind of wild that the team's been around, all these years.
Yeah, it has indeed. So I wonder if do you know where roughly PepeCoin sits in terms of like on the like the coin market cap listings? What number would it be roughly at the moment? Do you know?
So it's in the top 10 as far as meme coins go. I believe the market cap on Pepe coins are at around 300 million, depending on where we're at right now in the moment. And then the AI token, which is kind of attached to it, called Based AI, is about 100, 110 or 115. And the two of them have kind of been fluctuating there. I think the all-time high for Pepe coin was just over $1 billion market cap. It hit $1 billion market cap a couple months ago, and kind of riding now the wave of the season.
Yeah. So what's the goal here? So as you kind of explained, but it's worth just pointing out, you know, originally Pepe was one of the original meme coins, had some controversy because Pepe the Frog became associated with kind of, I guess, alt-right types just during that 2016 election, but then that's kind of died away. Firstly, how would you describe Pepe the Frog as a meme at the moment? If it, you know, what does it represent as a meme? If that still makes sense as a question, Brian.
It does. For me, if you would ask me probably a year ago, I would be a little bit confused on where that all kind of sits, right? But we had like kind of like dog season, and I kind of look at it now, we're in kind of frog season of this idea of identity, right? And I look at a PepeCoin meme, especially from like what it represents. It has the meme coin, it has the history. They've built some utility within like even the website, the operating system. They have staking mechanics that you can earn, but it's also it's a team, like a community of people that like believe in culture and innovation and kind of pushing the envelope and not allowing kind of I would say outside forces to kind of stop it, right? I think having that history and having to kind of deal with some of that turmoil that happened 2016, 2017, but it's still sticking around, right? I think part of Pepe the meme is like we're not going anywhere, and we're excited to be here, and I think that's where that meme gets used on a very frequent basis.
Yeah, it does. And I think like a lot of memes now, it's just a way of identifying yourself as a member of perhaps an extremely online community that is dedicated to some particular cause. And yeah, that's certainly the case here. You said, Brian, that you were interested in supporting this team because they were all about utility, and sometimes that doesn't necessarily become the first thing you think of when you think of like a meme coin, right? Because a lot of meme coins, particularly the recent waves of memes on like Solana, they're obviously just released to for people to try and potentially cash in on another meme coin cycle. But from what I can see, and I think what you're trying to articulate, Brian, that's not necessarily the case with PepeCoin. There's a bit more building going on, and there's obviously a long history. So I don't know, where should we start? There's a whole lot of things at different applications that we can speak to.
Well, and I think the team itself, right? Like for me, the fact that these are meme coin developers that have been around this long in this space was kind of the first shock. And I remember even being like, why? Like what has kept them in here? And if you look at they built an operating system, which is a Windows XP emulation on the website. And for them, they launched products and tools for their meme coin in 2016, 2017, 2018. Even launching an NFT marketplace within their Pepe OS before OpenSea, before the marketplaces that we know now. And so the team has been building, kind of constantly innovating. Right now, one of the more popular, I'd say, utilities on the PepeCoin side of the house is the ability, which they refer to as Pepe Paint, which allows artists to use, which was Microsoft Paint, very nostalgic, kind of connecting because the original Pepe was built using Microsoft Paint. And so it has that connection and roots where you can actually, within our community, thousands of ETH have been minted and art has been sold within the PepeCoin community, allowing artists to kind of have their path in. And so there was the PepeCoin side of it where PepeCoin itself has this meme, and it's still very much a meme. You don't have to be in it for the utility that it has, but there's the staking mechanics that are also built in there. But the staking mechanics have been earning what is an AI token for the last a little over a year and a couple months. And then that AI token has its own white paper, its own test net. And that's kind of where the innovation of these two kind of merges pretty nicely, where you're going to be able to burn one to be able to own things within an AI solution. And I'm a big believer in this idea of decentralized AI and where that is all going. So the meme coin is still a meme coin. It's standalone and it's not going anywhere. I think they've proven that being around since 2016. But at the same time, these are innovators. And I remember, my thought was, wow, if these guys are more than just your average meme coin developers, they must be building something bigger. And a couple months after I got into the project, the original white paper dropped. And I'll tell you, I sent it to a majority of the people in my network, right? Cybersecurity background, tech background. I sent the paper around and said, hey, I'm just curious your feedback. And one of the feedback I got from a lot of people was like, wait, you're telling me meme developers are building a decentralized AI focused on privacy? And I said, yeah, it surprised me as well. And they were like, if they can execute on this vision, it will be a game changer in the decentralized AI conversation. And so that kind of was my unlock of kind of going in. And kind of since that day, I've not only been a big PepeCoin holder, but also a big based AI holder, which is the kind of the sister token that is on the decentralized AI side of the house.
Yeah, I mean, man, there's a lot to cover there. Well, you've just kind of covered a lot of it, Brian. But man, there's a lot to pull out of that. Firstly, yeah, I love the fact that, and look, listeners, link is in the show notes, but just go to PepeCoin.io, which I guess is the starting point website. And yeah, as Brian kind of hinted at, it's kind of designed as like old school Windows browser. And yeah, it's done with a lot of style, a lot of love. You can tell it is really cool. And a lot of the other applications take their kind of design cues from that. It's quite unique. It's quite nostalgic. Makes perfect sense within the meme universe. There's quite a few other applications there. I mean, you mentioned the paint one. There's a DJ one, but we'll do I guess based A is the biggest one, and as you said, Brian, the most surprising one as well. So just expand on a little bit more on what based AI is and kind of how far through that development process the team is, and what are they trying to build with this?
So I mentioned before they launched a layer one originally in 2016, right? So with the original PepeCoin token. So this team isn't new to the layer one side of the house. So they actually started building, over a year ago when they launched PepeCoin, they started building this idea of, a privacy first layer one that focused on decentralized AI. And if I had to symbolize the decentralized AI component of it, because the beautiful thing about it being on its own layer one is that it can then leverage smart contracts, but it can also have this privacy component. And privacy is not sexy. I mean, I worked in cybersecurity for a decade. I think I can pretty much say that it's not a sexy conversation. But in the AI world, what they're essentially building is they're allowing us to own our own prompts and the data that we include in our prompts. So if you think about it right now, there are a lot of industries, a lot of verticals, and many people that aren't able or aren't willing to take because we learned from Web 2, right? We gave all of our data, our information, our content away to Facebooks, the Googles of the world, and they resold it. And then we were just the users getting the application for free. But in this AI world, that's no different, right? When you're uploading data in the ChatGPT or Claude or any of those, that data is then sitting on a centralized server. Who knows how it's being used and how it's being distributed? And there's a lot of industries, a lot of verticals that could never even take a step into that arena. And ultimately, what they're building is they're giving them that ability. And so it has this, it's using FHE. So it's some letters that kind of get a little bit overwhelming, but zero knowledge and FHE, allowing you to ultimately leverage AI without the data ever being decrypted or sitting on a centralized server. And so all of a sudden now it's giving it to me, it's the essence of the blockchain where there's still transparency and there's still smart contracts, but it's giving us control to our data and how we use AI. And so the beautiful thing about it is this team, not only because they were been building this from a standpoint of blockchain first, they've also, since they've been in the game for a while, the tokenomics are very dynamic in it, right? The way that you're being rewarded for owning these, subnets, which they refer to as brains, but then it's also connected to the actual PepeCoin. And so you actually are able to burn the PepeCoin that you hold to own one of these subnets that are going to exist on the AI. And there's only 1,024 of those subnets. So there is enough, but there's also a limited amount of them that will exist. But each subnet will ultimately unlock a use case, a business that is leveraging this decentralized AI. And so, for a lot of meme coiners, they're like, what does this mean in the meme coin side? But to me, it is an ultimate utility. And there are other players in the game. There's Tao with BitTensor, which is probably the number one player in the decentralized space. So there are others that are building in that arena. There isn't one today that is building with this idea of how can we include privacy without it pretty much eliminating productivity, right? Most privacy AI components today they're too slow, they're too encompassing, so it doesn't allow people to actually leverage the AI technology. So you asked where they're at. They're in phase 2 of the testnet. So the white paper dropped back in late February, early March. They're in, I would say, the near the end. I don't know the exact date of when it's going to end, but once the testnet accomplishes what it needs to, my guess is within the next month or so, we'll see the actual mainnet layer 1 launch, and then that of course comes with the token and emissions and a lot of the moving parts that are on that side of the house. But the white paper is on Cornell's website. It's when I pass it around, it's one of the better I have a long background of reading a lot of very boring, a little over-encompassing white papers, and I think this white paper does an amazing job of breaking down like kind of the tokenomics and simplifying some of these like privacy components that exist in AI. But it has, I mean, not only the potential to be big, but it's also built from a blockchain mindset first, where decentralized without compromised, focus on really transparency across the board, but also dynamic tokenomics to reward investors, reward holders, and even reward those that are using it. And I think right now you haven't got a lot of rewards for using AI. And I think that's ultimately what decentralized AI represents, is that if we're helping build it, we should be rewarded, unlike in Web 2, where we help build Instagram, help build Facebook as users, and none of us got rewarded or able to benefit as those projects grew. So that's where this one is at, phase 2 of 2 out of 2 of the 2 test nets that they're currently running.
Fantastic. Thank you, Brian. And look, will it be possible, is there going to be like a based AI ChatGPT style interface where you can get your AI queries answered in a safe, secure, private, non-data leaking way?
Without question. And
Yep.
And there's other moving parts too. One of the first tools that they've actually put out that is currently in the training of the model perspective is a trading bot. So it's called KEKbot is the name of it, and it's a natural language trading bot. The idea that you could simply put in natural language, if the market does this, if the trending on Twitter does this, and these coins do this, take this percentage of my portfolio, and you're able to talk to it. That's just one of the examples of things that be on there. But I was talking to an artist. I was at the Bitcoin conference there in Nashville this weekend, and I was talking to an artist who's a good friend of mine, and I said, "Hey, what if you could own one of these brains? We could upload your entire library of art, and you could have people build a Mid-Journey type experience, but off of his art that is authorized." He jumped at the idea. He thought that was such an interesting concept. So not only ChatGPT, but image creation, video creation, with the idea that what you're uploading and the prompts that you're creating are actually yours. You're the owner of them, and they're never decrypted. They're never sitting on a centralized server, which should allow for a lot better use cases and a lot, hopefully, more freedom in how we actually leverage AI across the board.
You said, Brian, that you've obviously done your time with the Department of Defense. You know a thing or two about internet security, but I think you described it as a non-sexy conversation. But I understand why you say that. But at the same time, it is really important. Just explain again why, what are the crucial factors that make, either as an individual or perhaps if you own like a company or something, why that privacy layer is so critical when we're dealing with AI models. I understand that if you're an individual, sometimes you want to get a little bit spicy with the AI, and you wouldn't necessarily want those kind of searches or questions or conversations to be used against you or come back against you in some kind of future scenario. Same goes for a company. If you're using AI models to kind of dig into your data and pull out the insights, that is, it's very important, valuable data to your company. But I'm sure there's more to this as well.
Right. And I think the thing to know is, most enterprises, most very large companies have their own learning language model on-prem, localized, private, right? So
Yep.
Let's be very clear. And the idea has been they're able to leverage it, use internal data, right? If you want to run data sets on your employees and better understand, I would argue every even small business today has so much data at their disposal because that became like the trendy thing. But the idea of how do we leverage that? The enterprise and the big players are able to do that today with actual, because they're able to spend the money. But the medium size to small business has no chance to actually compete in that realm. And I think that's one of the big unlocks is you're able to to test out versions of AI against data sets that you would not want to be public, right? Even like from a banking perspective or employee, or one of the things I talked about was like school systems, right? Like imagine if school systems were able to upload data to better understand the teachers that they're hiring or their attrition rate of their students. Right now, they're unless each school district or certain schools in certain countries are actually having a localized large language model there, that's not something that they would be able to do. And I think the other part of this that's important is there's also the smart contract component that allows you to use AI agents. And I'll just tell you, for anyone that's out there, that's going to be the term of 2025. I'm a pull it. Like Mark Zuckerberg went online last week and he said this was his exact answer. He said he believes every business that has an email address and a website will have an AI agent, at least one, if not three public facing that are doing things for the company, right? Everything from customer service to managing user experiences to, even onboarding, current customers or future customers. And the idea of AI agents is exciting, but I can tell you most of that excitement is for the large enterprise sized companies that are thinking about how they're going to leverage it using that data. And so if we think about that, this being its own layer one is going to allow small businesses, medium-sized businesses to build AI agents that leverage smart contracts that have the privacy component. And I think that to me is that's an exciting place that we're going to go. And it sounds wild to think about like how much that's going to be integrated, but AI agents being able to use the blockchain, right? That is a key component of this is something that we will see become the norm next year. 2025, it'll be the conversation of everyone's having, but then they'll still come back to the conversation of who's managing that data. Why are the big players being able to do this and small business, medium-sized businesses aren't? And there needs to be these type of solutions that are kind of the intermediary, they kind of sit in that in-between side. And the technology for privacy like this has existed since 2020. Vitalik, founder of Ethereum, wrote about it in 2020. The problem that he believed that was there in 2020, he said, we need a couple years to understand how to increase our compute and our performance so that we can use this really exciting technology that adds privacy, but without compromising all of our performance and how the speed of what AI can do. And the beautiful thing is that's what this team has been doing and so many other teams, kind of in the blockchain space.
Yeah, fantastic. And look, great points there, Brian. I couldn't agree more. AI agents, I mean, I've been hearing that term a lot myself recently, and yeah, it certainly will start to go mainstream next year as these AI platforms continue to innovate and mature. I suppose just another thing that I thought was interesting in terms of like the PepeCoin, I think it's on the website. It's part of the PepeCoin bio or story, history, or whatever you want to call it. But they write that PepeCoin is throwing a wrench in the well-oiled influencer shitcoin factory that churns out copy-pasta tokens to dump on unsuspecting average Joes. Instead, they are demonstrating that meme coins can and should be coupled with innovation and meaningful utility. It is up to you to decide what kind of future you want to see. You can either support the status quo by keeping the influencer assembly line running, or you can be part of history by joining us on our journey to become the first meme coin to be considered a top 5 network. The peppening is inevitable. So yeah, stirring stuff there, Brian, and I guess this is what you've been talking about from the beginning. It is PepeCoin is genuinely a meme coin with a full development team behind it, working really hard to bring all kinds of different utility to the token and to the community and to the ecosystem. That's what it's about.
It is. And, and even little things, right? Like liquidity is locked. I just pulled it out, right? The liquidity is locked for 67.67 more years, right? So 67 more years, like little things like locking the liquidity that way, building an operating system, right? Having what was referred to as Pepe OS, where they can continue to build products on there, right? Where you can even go on there and play games on there. If you want to play Grand Theft Auto, you can sign in as guest, play Grand Theft Auto. You can listen to Winamp, which, is a nice little throwback there as well. And I think this team, this team not only has proven like not only that layer of like having that experience, but it's very also meticulous. And like one of the things that drove me crazy when I found it was like, I said, how do more people aren't aware of what PepeCoin is, and because they've been around for so long. And this team's had some people that have front run them or stole the logo and some of the idea. And so they've made it their like mission to out dev, this is their terms, out dev everyone in this space. And so and I will tell you, like now that I've been in the project for as long as I have been, their commitment is that their technology and the way that they approach deployment of products and services within their ecosystem will not be challenged. They are really leveling up that layer. You know, even there's an idea that we'll probably see in the next month or so called Keck Space, which will be kind of like a 3D, 2.5D environment that allows people to innovate and display their internet art. And it does come back to like a lot of that bigger picture. And I'll tell you, the thing that jumped out at me at the Bitcoin conference here in Nashville that I was at last week was there was no other coins, no other dog memes, but there was a lot of Pepe art and a lot of Pepe the Frog conversation. So like, if you think about what Pepe represents, it's not really a chain. It's not really like a singular idea. It is more of the internet culture as a whole. And so that also plays into the ethos of this team, where the team they've proven that they innovated. They even pivoted the ticker for a good while, but then rewarded those holders that were on that to say, hey, let's come back to this entire journey. So that to me is a big part of this, where the team's proven that they're not going anywhere. And they've also done a lot of the things that kind of give people that assurance of like, this is bigger than your average meme coin. And they're definitely trying to do it differently.
Yes, indeed. Fantastically said. All right. Well, look, as we finish up this part of the podcast, Brian, just for people that are listening and they're like, man, I'm on board. Pepe, I want to get involved. Based AI, there's a lot going on. What is the best way for people to, start to engage with the PepeCoin ecosystem, based AI, get involved at all levels? What should they do? Where should they go?
So of course, you mentioned the websites. PepeCoin.io is the Web3 interface, Web3 website. We as the community have actually launched a Web2 website, which is called ogpepecoins.com, which is much more of like the Web2. Here's some of the videos, here's some of the interviews. This interview will be linked up there in a blog post for sure. So we've tried to have that on both sides. I host a weekly Twitter space. We've been doing it now 17 weeks on every Monday night, 7 p.m. Eastern time, U.S. Eastern time, where we bring up people in the community to ask questions, interact. Been doing it 17 weeks straight. Market up, market down. We're there to have kind of those conversations. They of course have a Telegram and a Discord that is very active. Bringing in artists, and I think the beautiful thing about this is you don't have to you don't have to love the AI to be a part of the community. You don't have to love the art to be a part of the community. There's so many different access points that bring in to this project. But yeah, check out either one of the websites. I'm very active on Twitter, of course, and the white paper is linked off of all of those websites as well. The white paper, is to me is a great technical kind of entry point to realize like the tokenomics here are at a level that I have yet to see in this space. And it's definitely, if you're someone that likes to think about game theory and how the burn mechanics go and how they're rewarding you for staking, right now, just to kind of put it out there, during this testnet phase, for every 500 Pepe coin you own, you're earning one base token a day. And so we've been doing that for about 3.5 weeks now that this testnet has been going on. Prior to that, it was 1,000 to 1 per day. So they've even increased the rewards as we get kind of closer to launch. And so lots of that stuff. I know there's a lot of moving parts out there, but both websites can, Web3 front door and a Web2 front door, hopefully can give people enough information to kind of jump in and play around and not be afraid to ask. And, they of course can message me or any of the others that are really active in the community.
Awesome. Thank you, Brian. Links to those websites in the show notes, folks. All right, it's time to finish off the podcast, Brian, and we do that, of course, by running you through the very famous crypto conversation hot take round. Are you up for it?
Let's do it. I'm ready.
All right, I'm just going to run some questions at you, Brian. Just want you to give me your honest hot take style answers. No right or wrong way to do it. Question one for you is, where would you say that you sit on the Bitcoin maximalist to multi-chain opportunist spectrum?
Ooh, I feel like I must sit right in the middle of the two, right? I was at the Bitcoin conference this weekend helping build on ETH. As I said, I'm a blockchain maxi. So anything that we're building with transparent and freedom of technology, I'm all in on both sides.
I love it. All right. What would you say then, Brian, is your firmest conviction crypto opinion?
I believe that the idea of what the blockchain represents as far as the freedom to exchange, the freedom of value, but also the freedom to build is the future. And the idea of not being able to raise funds differently to reward your customers and your investors is just getting started, right? And we haven't even got to that point. So I think we're going to look back at these days and call them the early days in the very near future. And I know there's many people that are going to argue that the early days were, and I heard that argument at Bitcoin this past weekend, but I think it's a beautiful thing that we're kind of able to innovate together.
Yeah. Look, Bill Gates famously said that we tend to overestimate what we can accomplish in 2 years and underestimate what we can accomplish in 10. With that in mind, 10 years, it's a long time in blockchain. Anything you like here, a PepeCoin, Web3, Bitcoin, what does it all look like in 10 years' time?
I think the idea of AI is not going anywhere, and I think AI as a revolution for the world is going to be as big as the internet is, right? And we're going to see it touch everything from energy, and of course we're going to the state of how do we even store a value, and I really do think the blockchain will end up being the foundation for how we continue to innovate, but we continue to innovate alongside of AI. I'm a big believer in. I'm not as worried about AI replacing us as long as we continue to put in the man hours, the woman hours into innovating alongside it. And I think the future of that innovation with AI, as where AI is going to be built and run on the blockchain.
Yeah, very well said. William Gibson said that the future is already here. It's just not evenly distributed. What's an example, Brian, of the future being here right now, but most people aren't aware of it?
I think it's just the unlock of what we're doing, you and I doing, right? On different sides of the world, being able to connect, share ideas, bring communities together. I think we underestimate like what social media became what filter did we use on photos? But I think the true unlock is what is the power of collaboration. I go on stage, I speak around the world, and one of the things I've always said is I believe the future of innovation is powered by the future of collaboration. And I believe the collaboration that we have at our disposal is already here today. We just haven't figured out and owned or realized how amazing it is that it doesn't matter where you live, what your background is, the ability that we have, we can do Zoom calls, we can do things on social media, and we can connect and find people to innovate with without having borders as our limitations is something that is already here, and we just have yet to kind of tap into it.
Yep, I love it. All right, meme coins, as we said, they've been one of the dominant themes, if you like, of the kind of the recent crypto cycle. Just thoughts on that from, like a hot take style perspective and, how it relates to PepeCoin. Is it sustainable for all just, a million different memes to release every week? And is it a good thing?
So no, I don't think it is sustainable in the long term, right? I think, and I was an NFT maxi. For those that don't, I bought an NFT every day for a year from November 2021 to November 22. I still hold all of those NFTs. The idea for me was I believe in the technology that is behind NFTs. But just like NFTs and just like memes, we got to a point where the explosion and the casino components of this technology overran everything. And I'm all for giving people the freedom to speculate, the freedom to kind of associate. But I do believe that if we looked at meme coins and what's going to survive the next cycle, I think it's the meme coins that we identify as a larger community rather than kind of siloing out, which is what I believe meme coins have kind of got to at this point. So I think there will be meme coins that will survive, just like Doge survived, just like Sheeb survived, just like the other Pepe has survived and kind of pushed that limit. But I think you have to look at it and say, okay, and it doesn't have to be utility, but I do believe it has to be something that is identifiable and something that people kind of carry with them. And for me, that was I was there with some other Pepe coiners at the Bitcoin conference, and seeing how much Pepe represented there was like, oh wow, this is much bigger than a meme coin. This is much bigger than a conversation. And I think there's other memes that are also going to survive. I think the concept of what memes unlock, a meme coin unlocks, can be extremely powerful. It can be the difference between technology being adopted and technology never getting off the ground, because we, like, as innovators or even as community members, we want to be associated with something, right? Like the whole Apple versus Android conversation exists because people are passionate about what side of the fence they sit on their devices. but there isn't like a way that you like knew people other than a green bubble on your text messages when someone's using it. But there is something to be said about online being like, hey, I know that everyone that is doing this type of thing and cares about these things is associated with, maybe it's the orange square of Bitcoin, or maybe it's the meme coin that is kind of being the vehicle of deployment. And so that's where I think we're going. I think we will see a consolidation, but I believe we're going to see memes not only survive this cycle, but we'll see them kind of reinvented as we're kind of seeing NFTs being reinvented right now. And I think we're going to see the next cycle have NFTs that exist, and we're going to see memes that exist, just not at the scale that both of those kind of took off at.
Yep. Very much makes sense. Thank you, Brian. All right. Brings us nicely to the final question, which is, what is your favorite science fiction book, film, or TV show?
Ooh. So, I mean, I'm a huge House of the Dragons fan. It was just on, last night. I think one of the best episodes. So Game of Thrones is probably the world that I live in. Watch each episode more than once. Watch every podcast that is associated to better understand. So that's where my mind goes. I've always been enthralled with amazing storytelling that allows us to unlock a world that, it only exists in our brain. So that's where Game of Thrones and House of Dragons is definitely my favorite.
I love it. Yeah. All right. Hey, that's a great selection. Game of Thrones. Yeah. I mean, I've watched the original Game of Thrones seasons twice, but I haven't yet done House of Dragon.
It's well worth it. Season 2, episode 7 came out last night, and I would argue it's in my top 5 of the entire both series for an episode. So it may take a little bit while to kind of get on board with House of the Dragons, but I believe the essence, the storytelling, and the things that we and Game of Thrones world loved now exist in that story pretty well. So I definitely would challenge you to give it a try.
I'll give it a try. All right. Thank you so much for coming on the show, Brian. Just to finish off, tell people where you like to hang out online, shout out your Twitter, X handle, and again, tell people what they should do to go and get involved with PepeCoin.
Sure, yeah. So I'm the same handle on every social channel. I'm active everywhere. It's iSocialFans. So my last name is Fanzo, and I happen to be an Apple fanboy. So iSocialFans on all the channels. Twitter is probably where I'm most active, Twitter and Telegram these days. As I said, we do a Twitter space on Monday evenings here local time. Every one of them is recorded. Every one of them allows you to submit questions ahead of time. You can submit questions anonymously. I understand that a lot of people like to stay anon here. So you can send them to me, and I will ask on your behalf. And then, of course, PepeCoin.io. It's a beautiful front door. If you're unsure about innovation and what is a meme coin that's more than just a ticker, I challenge you, if you go on PepeCoin.io, just click guest. You don't even have to connect your wallet. Click guest, jump in there on what they've done. I mean, every little detail of that Windows XP experience, from the start button to Internet Explorer to how they use the Pepe Paint, is something that I think will it's a fun little nostalgic journey, and I hope everybody will take me up on that.
Yes, indeed. Couldn't have said it better. Thank you so much, Brian. All the best, and bye for now.
Cheers.